In a peaceful monastery nestled high in the mountains, a young man sought the guidance of the wise monk, troubled by procrastination and a lack of focus on difficult tasks. His mind, he explained, constantly fought against him. "Master," he said, bowing deeply, "I know I must face these hard tasks, but I can't seem to do them. How can I force myself to focus and succeed?" The wise monk smiled warmly and gestured for him to sit. "Ah, my young friend," he said, "let me tell you a story." The monk began his tale. Once, a farmer owned a strong but stubborn ox, meant to pull a heavy plow to prepare his fields. Yet the ox refused to budge. The farmer shouted, pulled at the rope, and even tempted the ox with delicious food, but the ox stood still, unfazed. One day, an old shepherd passed by and saw the farmer's struggle. He smiled and said, "Friend, you are fighting the ox's nature. Let it gently, step by step, and it will follow." The shepherd picked up a small stick and tapped the ground gently in front of the ox's nose. Out of curiosity, the ox took one step forward. Then it took another, and before long, the ox began pulling the plow and completing the farmer's work. The monk paused and looked at the young man. What do you think the farmer learned from the shepherd? The young man thought for a moment. The farmer realized he couldn't force the ox to move all at once. He had to guide it step by step. The monk nodded. Exactly. Your mind is like that stubborn ox. When faced with a big, overwhelming task, it resists. But if you break it down into smaller, manageable steps, your mind becomes curious and willing to move forward. The monk stood and motioned for the young man to follow him. They began walking up a steep mountain path. "Let's climb this together," the monk said. The young man hesitated, gazing at the rocky trail. "Master, this looks impossible. It's too long and difficult for me." The monk smiled and said, "Don't worry about the entire climb. Just take 10 steps. Count them as you go." Reluctantly, the young man began walking, counting each step. After 10 steps, he stopped, breathless. "Well done," the monk said. "Now, take another 10. They repeated this process again and again. Each time, the young man focused only on the next 10 steps. Finally, they reached a beautiful viewpoint halfway up the mountain. The young man was amazed. "Master, I thought I couldn't do it, but here we are." The monk smiled. That is the power of focusing on small steps. When you stop worrying about the whole journey and focus on what you can do right now, the task becomes easier. The monk then shared his 4 principles for overcoming hard tasks. 1. Create structure, establish when and where you will work. A clear routine helps your mind settle. 2. Remove choice, commit fully to the task. Eliminate distractions and make the work your only focus. 3. Reward progress. After each small step, reward yourself, perhaps with a break or something you enjoy. This motivates you to keep going. 4. Embrace discomfort, accept that hard tasks will feel challenging at first. Just as the climb made your legs ache, discomfort is part of growth. It will fade as you become stronger. The young man nodded, inspired. "I think I understand, Master. If I break things down and follow these principles, I can overcome my struggles." The monk placed a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, my young friend. Life is like climbing a mountain. The key is not to conquer it all at once, but to keep moving forward, step by step. That is how we move mountains." From that day on, the young man began to approach every challenge in life with patience and determination, taking one small step at a time, just as the wise monk had taught him. If you see in our life, we are often faced with mountains, tasks, challenges, and goals that seem too big to overcome. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to let procrastination take hold, and to convince ourselves that we can't do it. But, like the young man, we all have the power to break through these obstacles, not by forcing ourselves to do everything at once, but by focusing on the small steps we can take today. In life, the key is not in the grand leap, but in the steady, patient progress. Just like the ox that began to move one step at a time, or the young man who conquered the mountain by counting 10 steps, we too can tackle any challenge by focusing on what's in front of us. By creating a routine, eliminating distractions, rewarding our progress, and accepting that discomfort is part of growth, we teach our minds to push through resistance. The brain is powerful, but it needs guidance and compassion. When we treat difficult tasks like a series of manageable steps, we train our minds to move forward, one small action at a time. Over time, this builds momentum, making the journey not just possible, but even enjoyable. So, whenever you find yourself struggling, remember this: life is not about conquering everything in a single effort. It's about moving forward, step by step, and learning to embrace each moment of discomfort as a sign of your progress. You are not alone in this journey. Take one step, then another, and before you know it, you'll have moved mountains.